Did you rename the stream? Okay, let's try this again. Not yet. Come on. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Unmute.
All right, this is the DG Podcast. This is episode 124, part B. Evidently, your mom is so fat, it's unhealthy.
It's true. Yeah. I always like those your mama jokes that always, or at least just insulting jokes that kind of fall apart because the person doesn't know how to insult accurately.
Right.
So it's like, your mama's so fat, it's really unhealthy, and she needs to lose some weight because it could be some concern about her diabetes. And
Actually, just before we got on, I was reading some. So you sent me that article about Jar Jar Binks, which will go out.
We can go over that while I'm trying to cast my crew here.
Yeah. But I found some other articles on the same page. And there's one. Okay, so these two both have to do with. Well, there were a couple in here that were about diabetes, which got me onto that. But there are a couple that are here that are for Lindsay. Seriously, for Lindsay. The best was a woman who was feeding her 3-month-old dog every few days for no other reason than that she thought a dog should only eat that often. Came in for hypoglycemia. The nurse who spoke with her has no patience for this kind of jacked ignorance and actually shouted at her, "Do you eat every 3 days?" The other one was, once had a patient who was prescribed an inhaler for his cat allergy. He came back a week later saying he was none the better. Turns out he was spraying the inhaler on his cat. This was a 15 dumbest patients ever.
There's been that before where you have to fully explain what to do, otherwise they don't quite understand.
Well, exactly. There's a couple of diabetes ones in here. One is there was a lady who had diabetes and her foot was necrotic. And for those of you who are not up on your terms, that means her foot was turning into a zombie. It was literally rotting.
That's what happens with diabetes sometimes.
Yeah. The doctor told her she was going to have it amputated, and she said, "No, Jesus will heal it for me," or something like that. The doctor looked at her and said, "Ma'am, you have maggots eating your foot. Jesus wants you to get it amputated."
Well, that's the thing. God has already healed you by giving you a doctor who's telling you how to fix your problem.
It's one thing. You and I were both religious. We both believe in miracles. We both believe that the miraculous can happen and does. But at the same time, we both also believe in the adage that the Lord helps he who helps himself.
What, that old story about that guy that was in a flood, and people kept coming by to save him.
Right.
And he kept saying, no, don't worry about it. God will save me.
Right.
And then he finally dies in the flood. And he goes, "God, why didn't you save me? I believed in you." And God was like, "I sent all these people to save you. Why do you keep turning them away?"
Exactly. It's we do believe in that, but at the same time, it's like, we believe that we are the hands of, we're the hands that are supposed to do the work. So anyway, not to get too into religion here, but okay,
This
so
is not the podcast for that.
yeah.
Stay tuned for me and Chance yelling about religion.
So Rhett sent me this email, or this link.
Honestly, Lindsay sent it to me today.
I was going to say that Lindsay sent it to you first,
Yeah.
and you passed it on to me. But it is hilarious.
He makes a compelling argument.
Oh, he
even
does.
Though it's tongue-in-cheek. He has some of the best examples of why it would work, but...
He does. And
I hate
you
this
kind of
freaking
sit
chair.
there and you think, when you get down to the end, of his arguments there, it's like, I could totally see George Lucas chickening out at that point.
There are...
You know what I mean?
There are some ways in some movies that if you view the movie differently, through different eyes, through a different perspective, the movie becomes interesting. There's a guy on YouTube who claims that if you watch Dark Knight Rises like it's a comedy, it's freaking hilarious. and I am slightly interested in actually watching the movie as a comedy to see if it actually comes out as interesting as he claims it does.
Uh-huh.
Just view it like, and just sit there and watch it like this is a comedy. I'm going to watch a comedy.
So anyway, what it is, and we'll talk about this while Rhett has his own troubles to deal with at the moment. Okay, so everyone hates Jar Jar Binks who grew up with the original trilogy. Because we all think...
knows anything about anything.
Yeah. We all think of Jar Jar Binks as a bumbling idiot who, through the political manipulations of Emperor Palpatine, was the idiot who basically overthrew the free government. But this guy takes it apart, and he says, what if we're looking at Jar Jar Binks all wrong? What if Jar Jar Binks is actually the mastermind behind the entire thing, start to finish?
There's a compelling argument that all of the bumbling is not exactly bumbling itself.
Well, yeah, and he makes some good points. I'm throwing this out there, and you're sitting there and going, how could Jar Jar Binks be the mastermind behind everything? And before I read the article, I didn't think of it that way. But at the same time, he points out, like you said, some compelling evidence that Jar Jar Binks is not quite as innocent as he seems. Things like the fact that when you're watching Star Wars, who is the one that does the physically impressive feats of skill and physical ability? It's the Jedi and Jar Jar Binks. Think about it. He does actually do what they say that he does. A standing 20-foot twisting somersault in the air. No problem.
Well, one thing that interested me more than most of the other stuff is he's up on a balcony when they jump down to save Amidala and crew.
Right.
And he's falling off, and if you look into the image, he's falling off on the right side.
Right.
And then it cuts to them landing, and he's landing behind them on the left side.
Right.
And it changes perspective so you don't quite tell. And part of you goes, well, that's weird. Maybe that's casting difference. But then if you look really closely, there is literally a droid shooting up to where he was.
And you can see the droid's head move to track Jar Jar Binks'
Yeah, he
movement.
shoots up to where he was, and then he notices that Jar Jar moved, and he turns his head just as he gets cut down to where he is. Right. And the only way for him to switch midair from one side to the other would be superhuman abilities.
Right. So some of the other things, let's see. He's he's in the middle of pitched battles, and they always go his way. No one can be that lucky. No one. He
Yeah.
he he manages to execute precise blaster shots
Well,
with it attached to his ankle, not in his hands, attached to his ankle.
he points out the Obi-Wan Kenobi point of in his experience, there's no such thing as luck.
Right, right.
And you could attribute all that to luck until, you see it, and then you're like, no, if that's luck, he's the luckiest person I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's the luckiest alien in the galaxy. Some of the other things, he compares Jar Jar's movements in the movie to drunken fighting,
Yeah.
where you use, as he says, bodily momentum, deception, and unpredictability to lure and confuse your opponents. And then he takes a look and he goes through and he's like, "This is Jar Jar moving in the movie. This is how a Zhu Quan or a drunken fist wushu fighter would move." And you do see the similarities between them. Now, that's not saying that he's right, but you look at it and you're like, wait a minute, I see what they did there. Now, the thing is one of the things that I really liked about the article is that he points out George Lucas's penchant for creating these type of situations where, and he actually takes George Lucas's words from an interview, and he says Yoda really comes from a tradition in mythological storytelling, fairy tales of the hero finding a little creature on the side of the road that seems very insignificant and not very important, but who turns out to be the master wizard or the master thing. And he points out that maybe if they had continued on with Jar Jar Binks in the vein of this article, that he would have turned into the Sith Lord, basically, and that and just as Yoda did, Yoda turned out to be the Jedi Master. He just seemed this little tiny green alien but he was actually kind of in disguise, and he's the master that Luke had been looking for the whole time, but he hadn't been in tune enough with the Force to figure it out. But he says he accuses George Lucas of chickening out because of the adverse fan reaction to the trilogy, and so that particular storyline where we actually find out that Emperor Palpatine or Darth Sidious wasn't actually the big bad that we thought he was, and that and it actually does make a kind of sense if we think about it in that light. I mean, there are things like there's a shot of Jar Jar hanging out with Emperor or Chancellor Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith. It's like, why would he be there in that shot if he had just been tricked? Would be a constant source of public embarrassment, but in fact, maybe he is the most powerful person in the galaxy. It's an entertaining read, and we'll post it to make sure that you can all take a look at that. Let us know what you think. It would be interesting to get your reaction to this. Like we've said, he makes some compelling arguments. The thing that gets me most of all is that George Lucas really isn't that talented of a writer.
No, he's not. He's not that clever. I think most of this is tongue in cheek.
Right. I'm with you on there, but like you said, you look at it, and here are some of the comments. So the title of Phantom Menace refers to Jar Jar then. He was the real menace all along. I can get behind this. This guy, expletive deleted. I'm starting to believe. Yeah, Palpatine was never a phantom from the audience's perspective. We all knew who the eventual Emperor was. They didn't even really bother to mask his hologram face. Jar Jar was the intended villain that was to be unmasked and shock everyone. The requisite middle chapter, I am your father caliber reveal moment. Sadly, it didn't come to fruition, not until this December anyway. My mind is so freaking blown. This is an entertaining read, but if it turns out to be true, this thread will become legendary. Let's see. Yeah. Imagine for a moment that Yoda did not reveal himself as the ultimate Jedi Master until Return of the Jedi. That Yoda spent all of Empire Strikes Back wobbling along behind Luke like a pet going, hee hee. Whoa, can I get another yum yum snack bar? Yes? Instead of beloved, he'd have been reviled. How dare Lucas ruin Star Wars with a Muppet? And the whole trilogy is ruined. His tragic mistake this time around was letting the silly facade of mystical alien character percolate between episodes and not having the courage to follow through in the face of intense but misplaced criticism. So these are just some of the things that the comments. I mean, there are tons of comments. Oh my word, what am I saying? You are a monster. I honestly think you're the one who is the evil Sith manipulator, trying to get us to rewatch the prequels just to focus on Jar Jar. That's some Jedi mind control if I ever seen it. Look at the way he moved his hands in that gif. The ultimate long con. Lucas planned it all along. He endured all the criticism, but when he was looking to sell Lucasfilm to Disney, he told them of the plan, and it all came together. Episode 7 was announced immediately. Now soon the name of Jar Jar will fill the hearts of millions with fear and despair. The craziest thing to think of all of this is, what if this is right? Anyway, that was like we'll post that and make sure that you can take a look at that. It really does make a lot of sense. A lot of sense.
Depressingly so.
Yes. Yes. There is a certain amount of depression there in that this makes sense. So, anything new?
As far as I've been up to?
Yeah.
I've been watching Arrested Development, and I never thought I would ever watch that show, but I started watching it, and it's depressingly good.
See, that's what I've heard on a lot of cases. I watched some of Arrested Development, but I really have a hard time getting into that fake news or fake documentary style. I just don't really like it. And it's funny. I really enjoyed some bits of it, but like I said, I have a hard time getting into it.
I watched a lot, and I was mainly sick this last Sunday, so I laid around and watched a lot of it. And I got a lot out of watching it. It took some time, but after watching quite a few episodes, I was like, yeah, this is pretty good.
Yeah, what I saw, I enjoyed. I just, like I said, I have a hard time getting into that faux documentary style film TV show. So, yeah, like I said, I enjoyed what I saw of it, but it's a funny show. It's very well done. I can see why people got so upset when they when the show was canceled.
Yeah. Oh boy, casting these characters, I swear.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of what I've been up to. I played a lot of the Battleborn, but unfortunately I can't really talk about that other than to say that I played it. So we'll move on. I actually did quite a bit of looking through superheroes, which is what Rhett is doing right now.
Poorly.
Yeah. So anyway, we were talking. Okay, so last week when we did part B of the podcast, we were talking about different characters from the comics and things that we thought should or that I looked through a lot of lists, and I grabbed a bunch of the ones that had their names had come up a number of times, and we talked about how we either, because they were saying that these characters, it was about time for them to get their own show, because we have, you know, this new media really that's coming out. You know, we have the Netflix doing their own series. YouTube is going to start producing their own stuff. And so, you know, a lot of people have been saying, you know, these characters and things that we love from comic books, it's about time to see them on the small screen or the big screen. And so we went through a number of characters, and there were things like, you know, I'm trying to remember now, Shazam getting his own series, and we were saying who else, I don't even remember now. Anyway, there were quite a few that we were saying should get their own series. Let me actually switch here, and I can look at our podcast, because I know the list is there. We were saying things like Moon Knight, Cloak and Dagger, Aquaman, Shazam, Static Shock, Booster Gold, and a lot more we were talking about. And when we got done with the podcast, we were talking about who we would see as actors in these roles. And so Rhett was saying, well, why don't you come up with a list and send it over to me of these actors, and we'll go through and we'll say who we think could play these parts, and we'd talk about that for a while. So I made a list, and it's a huge list.
Yeah, I'm doing my best, but
and I probably should have went the other way, but I put at the top, I put a huge list of Marvel characters. Not so many on the DC side. I found it hard to work through the DC master list, and then I said, well, it's kind of unmanageable, so I'll limit it to 10 from each, and I narrowed it down to 10 that I thought we should talk about. But Rhett didn't see that part, and so he was going through the huge list at the top, and he got through what? Down to Crimson.
I've been adding as you've been talking, as you've been filling in.
Right. I just was wondering where you said before that you'd gotten to about Crimson Dynamo, was it?
I added more. I focused more on the list at the bottom.
Okay. So, like I said, I had about 10 from the Marvel universe and then 10 from the DC universe that I thought that we should start with. And obviously we can go back, and if you guys have some opinions on if you have an opinion on your favorite character and you want to know who we would cast in that spot, you know, send them in. We'll add them to the list. But we'll go ahead and start with the Marvel group, because it's at the top there.
Okay.
And now, the first one we talked about before was Cloak and Dagger. If you guys aren't familiar with Cloak and Dagger, they're a superhero duo. They were like homeless, living on the street junkies, and they were experimented upon with a new type of heroin, and it unlocked their abilities. So Cloak, he has his abilities are darkness based. He has a connection to the dark force, or whatever they call it. And Dagger, her abilities are light based. She can create daggers, literally knives made out of light. And so we were talking about it, and we decided on Idris Elba for Cloak. He has the right look and the right gravitas, I think, for Cloak's character. Obviously, they could start at the younger stage in Cloak and Dagger and start when they were, teens and stuff. But they are adults in the comics now,
Right.
and so that makes sense to start with Idris Elba. But who did you think of for Dagger, or did you not get to that?
Okay. Idris Elba works really well because
Yes.
he's tall. His voice is exactly how I imagine Cloak to be.
Right. Kind of a dead voice.
It's sort of the lower end baritone, but not so deep that it sort of rumbles.
Right.
I always imagine Cloak to be sort of like a lower voice, but give him a bit of that quiet. And I actually think Idris Elba is one of the few who could actually pull that off.
Yeah.
Dagger, because of their relationship, needs to be a little bit more vulnerable.
Yeah.
She needs to be sort of innocent and quiet and straightforward, and Cloak needs to be sort of the protective. So with Idris Elba being tall, you want a shorter sort of
actress, yeah.
Vulnerable looking individual. Probably like that really attractive but sort of like younger looking. Anyway, I went with Elle Fanning.
Okay.
The only reason why I picked her is she was in Maleficent, and she pulled off Cinderella. Is it Cinderella? It's not Cinderella in Maleficent.
No, it's Sleeping Beauty.
Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, I think she could do that.
She looks like the right person for the role.
Yeah, she's kind of she's pale. She's definitely not imposing.
No.
No. And yeah, she could be the good. I don't want to say that Dagger is not capable of fending for herself, because she is. But at the same time, it's because of the dynamic between the two of them. Cloak looms up behind her. He's like always there in the background as her shadow and her protector.
Not a bad choice.
No, definitely not a bad choice. And she's got the blonde, waif-like looks.
Yeah. The skinny blonde lady.
Yeah.
I could just imagine Idris Elba's huge cloak and her sort of standing in it.
Right, exactly. Very much so. I think that's a good cast there. Yeah.
Hey, I know what I'm doing when it comes to casting these.
Obviously, they need to discuss with you first.
Yeah.
Although they have been doing pretty well recently, at least on the Marvel side.
They made it gangbusters when they cast Loki.
Yes.
That guy he steals the show whenever he's on screen. He's always the most central and focused individual on there.
Yeah, he really pulled off Loki and the whole quiet trickster, working his way up to the top by stabbing everyone in the back. Okay, so Black Panther is going to be coming out, evidently, if I remember right. Black Panther was scheduled for phase 3. I forget what their phases are.
He's actually going to be in
Civil War.
Civil
right?
War. Yeah.
Have they actually cast someone yet, or is it just talk?
I believe they have.
Well, let's see.
You could Google it, but they have actually cast.
Let's see. Black Panther 2018 from IMDb. It looks like they have Chadwick Boseman.
Now, that is not actually the individual I picked.
Okay. They actually have have cast Ulysses Claw as well, but it says rumored, not
No,
confirmed.
Ulysses Claw was in Age of Ultron.
Oh yeah.
He was Andy Serkis.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was flipping in it. I cast for Black Panther Jimon Hanso.
Uh-huh.
He was in.
He was the guy in Guardians of the Galaxy, right?
He was in
That
Gladiator.
Gladiator. Oh, right.
Yeah, I actually cast an African, real dark skinned fella. I was always impressed with his acting ability. He
He
comes
was
across this thick African accent, but
he was also in Guardians of the Galaxy.
he gives drama really well, sort of a
Yeah.
seriousness to it, and he has a good sort of noble bearing. And I always felt that that would work the best with Black Panther, where he always
Definitely.
takes things a little bit too seriously, but he always has that sort of noble bearing to himself.
Well, the thing is that Black Panther is the prince and eventually king of Wakanda,
Yeah.
his country. So he needs to be regal.
And he physically looks like the role, like in not like a classical like European king with the lantern jawed
Right.
stuff. He looks like an African king.
Right. Very much so. Um,
Yeah, I didn't go younger. I wanted an older, more seasoned version. And all of the versions, it's like you look around to see what other people's opinions are, and they're always like the really good looking black guy that's American. And no, I went for African. I don't want him, just walking through with like a really clean American accent or a poorly faked African accent.
yeah.
I wanted him, and he's such a good actor. I've seen him in quite a few things, and I always bought him as a really good choice. Anyway,
Yeah. And I mean he is 51 right now. And that could be why they didn't go with him. But,
I mean, you could go for a younger version of him as an
But
option.
you're right. It almost needs to be open casting call in Africa for this role rather than and I don't want to belittle Chadwick Boseman. I think that's how you spell his name or say his name. I can't say that I've seen him in anything. Evidently he let's see. Let me click here. He's been in,
I have a guy cast in one of these roles that is dead.
Yeah.
So I'm going for like perfect version. It would take me a long time to cast like perfect alive version for a lot of these.
Now this guy actually isn't much older than me. He's actually 2 years older than I am. The guy that they cast for Black Panther, but he does say that he was born in Anderson, South Carolina. I don't want to say that he couldn't pull it off. Hopefully he does a good job of being Black Panther because that's who we've got. But I think you're right in saying that Jimon, I'm not even going to try to pronounce the last name.
Honso or whatever it is.
Yeah, that he would definitely be an awesome choice for that.
That's who I would prefer. Yeah.
Now the reason that I picked the next one, Ulysses Claw, was because of Black Panther. Now, Black Panther and Ulysses Claw have a history. Evidently, Ulysses Claw killed Black Panther's father. And so I can imagine him being part of the Black Panther movie.
Yeah.
So, evidently, Andy Serkis, who played Gollum, has been cast as Ulysses Claw. What was your take on it?
I actually like Andy Serkis in almost anything he's done, so I wasn't disappointed with the guy. So yeah, I was happy with it. I don't know a lot about Ulysses Claw. From what I've read, Andy Serkis seemed to pull off the character fairly well.
Yeah, I can't say that he's been a disappointment in that role. I do know that Ulysses Claw was like an arms dealer, and he let's see, what's his character bio here? He's a son of a Nazi war criminal. He tried to get vibranium from Wakanda, but they wouldn't give it to him. And so T'Chaka, who is Black Panther's father, Claw murdered him. His name isn't actually Claw; it's like Clow, but he eventually becomes Claw because his hand is removed and he replaces it, kind of thing.
Right.
He evidently has superhuman strength, durability, and sound manipulation as powers eventually, as well as being an expert physicist. Dang, he looks ugly. I'm talking about Andy Serkis as I forgot that he was Ulysses Claw.
Yeah, he comes across as a bit rough.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on. Let's see. Go back to our list here. Bullseye. Now, we already had Colin Farrell as Bullseye. Colin?
Yeah, I recast him. And I picked an interesting choice that Chance might actually be a fan of.
But the thing is that Bullseye should be showing up in the Daredevil Netflix series. I would be very surprised if he didn't. So who did you cast?
I went unconventional.
Okay.
I went for Jackie Earl Haley, and if you know who he is, he played Rorschach in The Watchmen.
Yeah.
He also played Freddy Krueger in the newer Freddy Krueger reboot. He's been in a few other things. He does intensity so well. He's just not a looker, but the problem is when you look at the guy, he's so rough, you get the impression that he could have been like a street tough in Ireland.
Well, they are kind of going with that in the new Daredevil series. Definitely grittier.
Yeah, he pulls off the sadistic really well, and he's older, so he'll pull off like there's weight behind what he does. I don't want to give Daredevil another really young, like, oh, we're rivals. I want him to give him a serious, like, this is a serious situation. I'm a serious...
Well, the thing is with Bullseye and Daredevil have a rivalry that has gone on for I don't know how many years. But the thing is that I think Bullseye needs to come into the Daredevil series not as an assassin that's looking to prove himself, but as an assassin that's already displayed his expertise and is known throughout the criminal underworld. And so a man that's older than Daredevil, that I think that would fit and be a perfect spot-on cast. And you're right, he does that intensity really well. I don't know how he would look without the facial hair, though.
He wouldn't even really have to remove it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not important that Bullseye have no facial hair, but oh, there we go. Huh. I think he could actually get away with kind of going with a scruff, not full blown, but just like he has the 5 o'clock shadow thing going, and then the bald head. I think that would work really well for Bullseye.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
So Taskmaster. Now, I picked Taskmaster for a number of reasons. Taskmaster I feel is an interesting character. He has a wide skill set. I shouldn't say a wide skill set. His ability is that he can learn other people's fighting styles just by watching them. And he's a mercenary. He could show up in the Deadpool movie. I don't know. What do you think?
I wanted to give him a bit of a psychotic feel, and I played around with Taskmaster quite a bit, and I wasn't sure exactly where I was going to place him. So I went rogue with my choice. Sean Penn.
Sean Penn.
Sean Penn can do sadistic really well, and he can do psycho really well, even just in his normal life. and I've seen him in quite a few movies, and man, is he a good actor.
He is. He's an excellent actor. I wonder, though, about his physicality.
That would be irrelevant. When he put on the mask, you'd have some sort of weird martial artist dude. Sean Penn, I want as the voice and the seriousness, and when the suit isn't on.
They could even do kind of a Darth Vader thing, where Sean Penn does all the acting, and they just have some guy, some big bulky guy.
Well, that's pretty much what they do in every movie. No matter how physical the guy looks, 90% of the time it's some other dude doing all the fighting.
Doing all the stunt work, yeah. Yeah, good point. So it doesn't really matter. You're right. Yeah, Sean Penn would be a good choice.
I went rogue with that one, but it didn't actually come out as a terrible decision.
No, it doesn't. Because you don't even need to see his face. You don't need to think, man, Sean Penn's getting up there. You just need to have his acting ability behind it, you know. So that works really well. Okay, so with the Avengers, they've kind of been getting away from the source material in the comics and stuff.
Right.
Not that that's a bad thing. The latest Avenger movie was okay. It was a good action flick. But they have been kind of going out, reaching out from the original Avengers list, you know. So we haven't seen Ant-Man, Giant Man, Hank Pym as part of the Avengers, nor have we seen Wasp. So who do you think about for Wasp?
I really tried to find somebody for Wasp. Wasn't she originally Asian?
No, I don't think so.
She is in the Ultimates.
Yeah, she's kind of.
And I kept trying to think of Asian actresses, and a lot of them I could think of seem a bit older. And I think the best way to go with Wasp is to go for a much younger individual. And I really struggled because I don't know that many Asian actresses, and I was sort of trying to stay true to the race of the individual, at least the one I read in the Ultimate series.
Right. Now, what do you think of Jennifer Goodwin? I just sent you a link to some pictures of her. She's more of the traditional, maybe looking for.
Not bad, but I think my choice is not a terrible one.
No, it's not.
Well, I haven't actually told you who I picked.
Okay. Well, I was just going with your Asian vibe, and
but I couldn't find anybody
Uh-huh.
because I don't know that many Asian actresses. I mean, there's your Lucy Liu, and but it wouldn't work for the role and stuff. Well, so I went for young, and I went for possibly flirty and goofy.
Okay.
So I picked Alison Brie.
Oh yeah.
Not a terrible choice.
No, very, very much a good choice, I think. I think she could do the role. She's got the. I think that there's a lot of connections between, especially from the traditional, the Marvel 616, as opposed to the Marvel Ultimate. In Alison Brie, at least in some of the characters that she's played.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's a good one. Jennifer Godwin was one that I thought of just actually in the past little while. She played Snow White in the Once Upon a Time television show. I think she has kind of the especially not the Ultimate, but the Marvel 616, she definitely has the kind of Janet Van Dyne look. Anyway, now my next one, Venom. Now, Venom has been played by Topher Grace. Poorly. played by Topher Grace. Venom should never have been played by Topher Grace. If you've read Venom at all in the comics, Venom is huge. He's massive. And that's not just him being Venom because the symbiote makes him big. Eddie Brock is not a small guy. Eddie Brock was definitely like a football star kind of dude. He's a big, bulky, thick guy. And then when when he became Venom, he got even bigger. And Topher Grace is basically Peter Parker's size. Spider-Man. Yeah. So, now, I thought of Ron Perlman when I was thinking of Venom. Mostly because of his...
Really?
I did.
Ron Perlman?
Because of his work as Hellboy.
Yeah, but he's not actually that big.
No, he isn't. But he like looks that way, especially when they had him as Hellboy. He looked physically imposing. What was your take?
I went for younger actor because we have a younger actor for our new one.
Okay.
He's really fit. He was in this MMA movie called Never Back Down. His name's Cam Gigandet. And though Never Back Down is not very good, his movie, his role in the movie, he came across as like that psycho douchey, like bully in school, where it's like he's always sort of manipulative and the most attractive guy in the room, and he does whatever he wants to. But then he gets in these fights where he's just pounding a guy's face on the floor, and he pulled it off really well. And I actually think Venom needs to have that little bit of like a bully to him.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And
Eddie Brock was not a nice guy.
Been really popular.
Yeah.
And it's like he just expects everybody to fall in line with him and do what he says.
Yeah.
And after seeing him in a couple of movies, I actually think he would do really well. He's not super big, but he's not really fit.
I can see that he's not the Lou Ferrigno type of.
Right, but he could bulk up when he goes Venom as opposed to.
And obviously, with Venom being so much bigger than Peter Parker, they're gonna do some CGI and stuff, and so that some of that's gonna be taken care of.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's a good choice. Definitely, he's got the good look that Eddie Brock would like. Yeah, I'm good looking and I know it.
Right.
And things. I think you're right. Eddie Brock needs to be that guy. He needs to be. I'm charming, or at least I'm good looking, and so all the ladies flock to me because I'm handsome Eddie Brock. And so when he gets showed up by little Peter Parker, it really makes for now I have this huge grudge against him. I've got to get him back. All right, let's see. Moving on. Iron Fist. Who did you?
Terry Crews.
Let's see.
He would work out perfectly. He is instead of going the over serious gang guy, he would be the really charismatic, big, and he physically fits the role. He's the guy in the Old Spice commercials.
Yeah, I know Terry Crews, but are you thinking Luke Cage?
Yeah.
Iron Fist. He's
the martial arts
dude, Danny. Yeah.
Still, Terry Crews is Luke Cage.
He would be awesome for Luke Cage.
Wouldn't he be the best Luke Cage ever?
He would be the best.
His over-the-top sort of personality and stuff would work perfectly.
Yeah,
I've seen him in more serious roles and it works, but I want him to be intense and almost charismatic in a way. Yeah. I think Luke Cage...
he would be an excellent Power Man.
Right. Iron Fist.
Yeah. Now, see, Iron Fist almost needs to be kind of a Chuck Norris type.
Yeah, but he needs to. He almost needs to be the white version of Bruce Lee.
That's why I was, Chuck Norris.
Yeah,
um,
but Chuck Norris is sort of too big and fit. He needs to be like skinnier and quick. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. See, the thing is that there's the what is it? Enter the Dragon that they were both in together.
Yeah.
Um, I thought it was interesting to watch Bruce Lee um, and Chuck Norris fight. Um, Now you're right. I think Chuck Norris isn't as I recall. Chuck Norris isn't too tall, um,
Uh,
but
Iron Fist, if I were to cast off the top of my head just for looks, as opposed to somebody who fits it perfectly,
uh-huh.
Ryan Gosling, maybe?
Let's let's see. Yeah, I could go with him. He's got a pretty boy look.
But yeah,
I think
this is off the top of my head. This isn't me sort of casting him, because he needs to have that sort of serious, mystical sort of
yeah.
focus to him. But right off the top of my head, just looks-wise, that would be my choice.
Mm-hmm. I could see him in the role. It would be kind of hard to take him seriously as the mystic aspect of Iron Fist, but I could see him as the Danny Rand Iron Fist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can always train these guys, and if he's dedicated enough, he could come out
Yeah.
as a very quick thing and give him the martial prowess.
Right. All right. Well, we can move on. We can always come back to Iron Fist. Moon Knight. I know you like Moon Knight, and I know you want to see Moon Knight done right.
Right.
And so I'm pretty sure you have a specific person in mind for Moon Knight.
I do. He's an odd choice. I don't think most people would have expected it.
Uh-huh.
But I'm going to cast Michael C. Hall.
Michael C.
Dexter.
Hall. Really?
Yeah. The guy who played the serial killer in the TV show Dexter.
Huh.
He's got that like eyebrow thing, like he's constantly little up to something evil, and that gives
I can
you
see it.
Yeah, that gives you the impression that there's something going on in the background, like that's not quite right. Like he's always up to something. There's always sort of some craziness behind him, and he just always had that look. He's an older actor right now. He's probably in his 30s.
Well, the thing is
44 years old. See, here's the thing, though. I want an older, seasoned Moon Knight. I don't want 20-year-old, like, we're fighting and that sort of thing. I want an older, seasoned version.
Well, it wouldn't make sense to do Moon Knight as a young guy.
But everybody wants to cast everything now as the young, like, hip actor. I'm casting this serious role. And I actually think he would do really well.
If you think about who Moon Knight is, and you think about his origin, he was a mercenary for years before he became a costume vigilante. So it doesn't make sense to go with some guy who just got out of high school. It makes sense to go with a guy like Michael C. Hall, because he's got the age, the experience, to be Moon Knight. And like you said, he's got the crazy.
Yeah, watch Dexter and you'll go, wow, he's got the crazy going on. And you need to actually have Moon Knight to have the crazy. And yes, he can do the like upfront businessman, CEO of a company thing, and then he can do the I'm a little nuts as well. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Because if you don't do the Moon Knight as slightly deranged, you're not doing Moon Knight right. Because he's got the mental issues. Okay. Now, which one did you pick, Mysterio or Shocker?
I picked Mysterio. I
Okay,
wanted to cast a Shocker, but I didn't.
we can cast a Shocker another time.
Yeah, yeah. So my choice for Mysterio is probably surprising.
Okay,
I cast Brad Pitt
Brad Pitt.
because
That is surprising.
Mysterio is
It's
an old
unexpected.
school classic actor,
Uh huh.
and he is really into the special effects.
Right.
So I want Brad Pitt to be the individual because I want him to look like a pretty boy actor, but Brad Pitt has got such a crazy range where he can go nuts when he does certain roles that he can do the oh, I'm better than everybody, but I'm freaking out because nobody gives me the respect I need. Almost like the out of work actor that used to be big but is no longer.
Yeah,
And
actually,
that's why I chose
that
Brad
makes a lot of
Pitt.
sense.
Now, I know he wasn't necessarily an actor, Mysterio himself, but I actually want the Hollywood type look,
Uh huh.
and then the desperation of nobody pays attention to me anymore.
Right. Yeah, that makes perfect
You
perfect
see
sense.
my point?
You're right. It is a non-standard choice, I think, for Mysterio. I think I would have gone for someone like uh, Jackie Earl Haley, because of the kind of crazy and the behind the mask.
Yeah, but that's too obvious. That goes too crazy. I want him to look like a Hollywood type and then take it crazy. And Brad Pitt can actually take it crazy. You've seen
Or maybe even
12
Robert.
Monkeys.
Uh-huh.
You've seen crazy Brad Pitt in 12 Monkeys?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's what I was thinking of when I thought of Mysterio.
See, Robert England is another one. I remembered seeing him when I was looking up Jackie Earl Haley. Robert England was the first Freddy. He was the first actor to do Freddy, and I think he could do a good Mysterio as well. But anyway, so now we've done with the Marvel for now. I have a huge list, and so we haven't even gone through half of the list that I made, and there are still more. But I want to get into the DC stuff. Now they've been talking about doing a Booster Gold Blue Beetle movie, and I think that would be awesome to do a comedy buddy superhero movie. Obviously, I hope they would do it well, but what do you think of Booster Gold and Blue Beetle?
Now, I'm going to be unpopular
Okay.
and say that Chris Pratt was a bad choice for Star-Lord.
Okay.
Star-Lord is a more serious character than they pulled him off to be, and I think they made him too goofy in the movie.
Okay.
If you've ever actually read Guardians of the Galaxy, as fun
I've
as
read
the
a little
movie
bit.
was, and as great as Chris Pratt was in the role,
I can
that
see
is
where you're
not-
coming from.
That is not Star-Lord. So I thought Chris Pratt would actually fit really well as a Booster Gold. Because he has that comedic background and that goofy sort of like characteristic to him. If I can't have Chris Pratt because he's already been cast in another movie, I went for a weirder, more interesting choice,
Uh-huh.
and I cast Alan Tudyk.
Really?
Yeah.
As Booster Gold.
I think if I could get a younger, what's his name from Serenity, the captain?
Uh-huh. Mal Reynolds. What's his name? Castle. Nathan Fillion.
Nathan Fillion. He would actually be the most perfect Booster Gold because he's got that arrogant, I'm full of himself. If I could get him younger.
Yeah.
But my other choice went, Alan Tudyk, because he would be a non-obvious choice, but he has that goofiness to his acting that I actually
does have
work.
the goofiness that would go well with Booster Gold, but I don't know. He doesn't strike me as a pretty enough guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that wasn't my point in picking him. But
Well, I know.
if you were going for some, I think if I were going for the ideal, yeah, it would probably be Castle or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Nathan Fillion.
Nathan
Yeah,
Fillion.
he does strike me as an excellent choice.
I think if you were to pick any superhero for Nathan Fillion who would be perfect with, it would probably be Booster Gold. I don't think he would fit in almost any other superhero.
They did cast him as the voice of Green Lantern in one of the Green Lantern movies.
Yeah, but he wouldn't be a good Green Lantern.
No, he wouldn't.
He'd do a good voice.
Yes.
But not a good Green Lantern.
Yeah. So, because it's Booster Gold is very synonymous with Blue Beetle. So,
right.
Especially
I went for another odd choice simply because I know how good he is, and I know that he can do more physical roles since he expanded into Predator, so I picked Adrian Brody.
Let's see. Adrian Brody.
He got an Oscar nomination for The Pianist.
Oh, him, yes.
Yeah.
He would be excellent, yeah.
And he was in Predator.
Oh, right, he was.
And he did a really physical role, and he gained a lot of muscle for that. He was previously just a really scrawny dude.
Yeah. Well, when you brought up The Pianist, I remembered how scrawny he was for that. But, yeah, you remind me of his role. He played what was his role in Predators?
The main dude.
He was the main dude, yeah. I just was trying to remember what his background was, because former CIA agent, that's what it was. Become a mercenary, captured while on operation in Iraq. Topher Grace was in that one too.
Yeah.
He played a psycho, which actually fit. So, yeah, that's a good choice. I think that would be good. So, now Shazam was once Captain Marvel, but then, through legal whatever finagling, they had to change him to Shazam. So if you're not familiar with the name change, that's who he is. And you might have two options here, because we've got Shazam and Billy Batson. They kind of have to go together.
I didn't cast Billy Batson simply because there's so many child actors out there.
True.
That anybody I would pick would be old by now. You know what I mean?
Right. So who did you pick as Shazam?
Okay, Shazam himself. And I went crazy once again. And I went, you don't need a brilliant actor for Shazam himself. He needs to be able to act goofy, like a child.
Yes, he does.
And almost overly optimistic. So I picked WWE wrestler John Cena for Shazam.
John Cena would be awesome.
Would he not be the perfect Shazam? And he could play, and even though his acting ability wouldn't be that great as far as the breadth would be, it would be justifiable as Shazam because he's a kid.
Because he's really a kid inside the big buff up.
I know what I'm talking about. He has a look and everything.
Yeah, he does. He's big and bulky. He's got the... Yeah.
Yep. Not a terrible decision.
No.
And then just
it's an interesting choice.
Yeah. Well, I went, well, let's think outside the box with this guy. And I was like, well, let's go wrestler. Who would be the best wrestler for this role? John Cena.
Yeah.
And then you go really optimistic, good child actor for Billy Batson.
Yeah.
But he has to be overly optimistic and positive. You know what I mean? Like, I can do it and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, almost a girl.
Right.
Now, I know that they've been talking about Black Adam, and they've been tossing Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Well, he was cast as Black Adam.
Right. What do you think of that?
I think he's a terrible choice, so I recast him.
I kind of figured that because I don't really see him as
Now, I'm
Black
not
Adam.
going with Black Adam as big and muscular like Shazam.
Right, right. He needs
I'm
to
going
be.
for Black Adam who's real fit, but
Now,
sort of fit and fast and calculating. Because Black Adam is the more serious, calculating, evil
yeah,
sort of feel to the guy.
I think The Rock is physically a good match for Black Adam,
Yeah, but I think I don't want
but we could
big.
do better.
I'm not trying to cast a big muscular guy. I want the. I could physically match you. I just don't look as big as you. You know what I mean?
Right. He doesn't need to be. He's got,
And you can
his strength is
whatever
on par
actor
with
this
Superman.
happens to be, you can always put weight on him.
Right.
So I picked who was the best part of the Green Lantern movie, Mark Strong, who is the perfect Sinestro I've ever seen could possibly be cast. And he is so good as a villain, I actually think he would be a fantastic Black Adam.
Actually, yeah. You're right. He probably would be an excellent
Because
Black
he's
Adam.
lived for thousands of years since Egypt.
Uh-huh.
And the guy's got to be calculating and
Yeah.
sadistic. And you put some weight on him, and he comes across as this serious.
And he's British.
So he sounds evil already.
So, yeah. He's already got that going for him.
He has natural evil to him.
Uh-huh.
I think that would be... He was the best cast person I've ever seen. It's like, how do you cast Sinestro? I don't know. And then Mark Strong showed up, and I was like, why is he so good in this role? He was the perfect Sinestro, and if they ever make another one, he has to be the next Sinestro.
Yeah.
But he would do a really good Black Adam. That's who I would pick.
He would do an excellent Black Adam. Okay, so this one is maybe getting into a little more difficult territory. Martian Manhunter.
Okay, so I cast a voice, not an actor.
Okay.
And I cast Denzel Washington.
Good choice.
Yeah.
See, a lot of Martian Manhunter is going to be CGI anyway.
Yeah. I didn't want him to go robotic and unfeeling, but I wanted somebody who could do a little bit more monotone, who had enough acting range to give him the feel of not quite human.
Right.
And the voice, I think, sort of that soothing voice that Denzel Washington has, would work really well with Martian Manhunter, because he needs to have that reassuring, soothing voice, you know, because he's always there and reassuring you that he's not going to help conquer the world. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
He's the friendly
and the thing is that if he needs to shapeshift, he can always be Denzel Washington.
yeah, he could be anybody he wants to.
Exactly. So yeah, that's actually a good choice for Martian Manhunter.
Yeah,
I think that's an excellent one. Okay. Now, a large part of the DC universe, for me anyway, is Deathstroke the Terminator. I like his character.
He's really good. He's an old veteran.
He's who Wolverine should be.
Right.
He is the best at what he does.
I cast an interesting choice because I like the actor a lot, and I don't think people give him enough credit. And he was in a movie where he played an MMA cage fighter, and he got so bulked up, and he went nuts on the person he was fighting. So he can physically play the role. He was in Speed Racer, and actually had some of the only martial arts in the movie. And I picked Matthew Fox for Deathstroke. He could go older, but I actually think he has a lot more range to him than most people give him credit for. And he could do the physical aspect really well. If you look at Matthew Fox MMA or whatever, you see what he looks like in the ring, and that sort of crazy look in his eye.
Yeah. Definitely with the,
Yeah, yeah. I actually think he would be a really good choice. He just needs to come across... I actually think he has the acting capability, but he needs to come across as condescending.
Very much so. He is Deathstroke the Terminator. You are barely worthy of his attention. in
Right.
any shape or form.
But Matthew Fox has that almost monotone, straight across voice, which might work out well.
Yeah.
But
Very
he's
much,
sort of an
yeah.
out of the field, but I actually think physically he could do it, and I actually think he's a good enough actor.
And he needs to get the right amount of threat into his voice, you know, so that you just when you're talking to him, you just feel like he's an inch away from putting a bullet through your head. And
he's
the only
wasting his
thing that's
time 'cause
stopping
he's so
him,
much better than you are.
yeah, the only reason that he hasn't is because one, you're paying him money, and two, it would be a waste of his time.
And I get the impression that Matthew Fox has that sort of dispassionate to what he's doing and who he's doing to it, doing it to. That if stuff changed, he could just sort of drop it and be like, "Well, they're no longer going to pay me. I'm done," and then he'd just walk away.
Yeah. Very. Yeah. That's
it's not personal until it becomes personal.
Right. But he's trained enough and ruthless enough to know the difference between the two.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so Plastic Man. Now, I used to love watching the Plastic Man cartoons, and while I don't really think he should be in this role, Jim Carrey springs to mind because he is
Jim Carrey's too obvious, and he's too over the top.
You're right.
He's too over the top.
He is.
I actually want petty, self-absorbed, great comedian.
Uh-huh.
So I picked Will Arnett.
Will Arnett. Yeah. Let's see. Yes, perfect.
You see what I'm talking about? He's petty. It's more about him than anybody else. And he's got the really good comedic timing where you throw him in the role and he's like, oh, come on. And if you recall, Plastic Man started out as a thief.
He did. He did. He was a thief until he was doused with the chemicals that gave him his powers. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He would be an excellent choice for Plastic.
I was like, no, Jim Carrey's too obvious.
You're
Jim
right.
Carrey'd be like goofy. No. You need somebody who could take it seriously and pull off the sort of goofy, douchey.
Right.
Sort of Plastic Man.
That's why I said I don't think he's good for the part. He immediately springs to mind.
Yeah, Jim Carrey as Plastic Man would be a clown.
Yes.
And I don't want a clown. I want somebody who takes who acts and looks like he's taking the role seriously.
Right.
And yet the character himself doesn't take himself seriously. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a serious the role is serious and the character just isn't.
Right.
And to Jim Carrey, every role is goofy.
And yeah. And that's why he wouldn't work in the role. I remember watching, like I said, the cartoon when I was little, and I remember him being that over the top, and he even is that way, in the comics and everything. And so I see the parallels between them, but he would be a poor choice. Okay, moving on. We haven't. Well, this next one, Batman Beyond. In the future, Batman is forced to retire because of health and aging, and he takes up a teenager who basically falls into his lap, kind of thing, and turns him into the next Batman. This teenager steals the bat suit, and he ends up forging an alliance with Batman, and Batman trains him to be the next Batman. Your thoughts?
This was really hard for me. You could cast any number of unknown young actors in this role, and they would probably pull off a decent Terry McGinnis.
Right.
So I went left field
and
picked a well-known younger actor. He's not super young now, but he has that sort of serious look, like he could be sort of a Batman-like character. So I went with Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad?
Let's see. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Well, give him hair and darken it, and he'll pull it
Yeah.
off. And if you've seen him in the movie, he actually is a really good in the show. He's a really good actor, and in this, he would pull off more of a
Make him look a bit younger.
yeah, more of a bit more like, I'm in high school. I have more important things, but my dad is dead.
Yeah.
And he has a bit of that, like, serious, unsettled look to him.
Right.
If we're just casting him on looks. But I actually think he has enough acting capability that he could pull off a Terry McGinnis. Because Terry McGinnis doesn't actually require a lot. Everybody's been a bit, like, off, distracted teenager. If it wasn't Aaron Paul, I would probably go for a young, early 20s kid who almost comes across as a dispassionate, detached... You know what? What's his name who played Spider-Man would probably be a better Terry McGinnis than Spider-Man.
Andrew Garfield?
Yeah.
He might, yeah.
Because he has that sort of, like, emo kid look to him. Like he's distant, but he has to do this because of responsibility.
Yeah.
He would be a better Terry McGinnis than he was a Peter Parker.
You're right. He would be much better as Terry McGinnis. Kind of a funny thing about Terry McGinnis, his genetic profile is exactly Bruce Wayne's.
Yeah.
Through
well, not 100%.
Things. Right.
It's like a cross with his mother or something.
Yeah. Okay, so the last two on the DC list are both villains. Both excellent villains in my opinion, and I think that we haven't seen them enough. Well, maybe one, I don't know. Darkseid is the one.
Okay.
And I kind of wonder if Terry Crews would be a good Darkseid. If not, we'd have to get a good...
I wouldn't cast Darkseid as a physical role. I would cast the voice.
Definitely.
I would cast the voice and just have whatever guy in a giant suit.
Kind of the Thanos thing.
Yeah.
I do like the voice.
Okay,
Thanos.
so with Darkseid, you have to have authority.
Yes.
You have to have sort of like a shaking, like, presence to it. And you have to have a I am better than you.
Now, we talked about Idris Elba being good for Cloak because his voice didn't have that deep, deep resonance that made things rumble. We need that with Darkseid.
Which is why I cast who I cast.
Okay.
Ian McShane.
Ian McShane. I have to look him up.
Jason's not quite sure. Ian McShane would be perfect. He played the voice of the other tiger in Kung Fu Panda.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Definitely got the deep growling
and
voice.
he also has that voice to him of I am better than you.
Yes.
Why are you here? You know what I mean? That sort of shaking, like commanding presence to him.
Yeah, definitely.
Ian McShane to me would be one of the better choices for Darkseid.
Now you could also not to say actually you do need that voice that just commands demands obedience, because that is Darkseid. He is so far beyond your capabilities that he is you're a speck to him.
Right.
Yeah, that the voice that you could even maybe do a cultured voice, such as a British voice, not over the top British, kind of a subtle British voice, like we said, it's already evil. But I don't know who I would I would choose at that point. But you're right. That is a good choice for
Listen
him.
to more Ian McShane, and the more you'll listen to him, the more you'll realize how good a decision he is.
Yeah. Okay, last one on the list. We have Brainiac. Now, I think Brainiac. I would like to see more of Brainiac. There's just something about him that intrigues me because every time Brainiac gets destroyed, he comes back as another version of himself, and in the future, one of his selves becomes a hero and joins the Legion of Superheroes. So there's got to be, in my opinion, there's got to be that possibility that he learns and grows and can become something better. What are your thoughts?
You need robotic, dispassionate, and whoever you cast, you have to have them play robotic and dispassionate and straightforward, and almost I'm better than you, but it has to be it has to be like you're casting a robot, which you are.
Right.
So my choice for Brainiac, which I thought was an interesting choice, would be Hugh Laurie.
Really?
Yeah.
He could do it.
He could do it. Take Hugh
Definitely.
Laurie's voice and then just have him go more dispassionate. More dispassionate.
And if you're wondering, okay, it's kind of funny that you would pick Hugh Laurie, and that's because if you actually know about his career, he started off as a comedic actor.
Yeah.
And
see, that's what makes me interesting, because I want that moment in the movie with Brainiac where he's so dispassionate and he doesn't care. He's just robot, until you get to a point where he pushes it a little bit too far, and then he tips, almost like he gets a little psychotic at some point. And I think Hugh Laurie could pull that off.
I think he could. See, if you think
he needs to have that voice that sounds like it could be a robot.
Yeah. If you think about Hugh Laurie and and the characters that he's played, think of House.
Yeah.
And then go robotic. Because in House, he very rarely does he show emotion. He's very much level tone almost all the time. And that's actually not his real voice.
Yeah,
Hugh Laurie
British.
is a British actor. He faked an American accent for that. The other thing is that he actually tried out for the role of Wilson rather than House. So, just a couple interesting things there. But yeah, I think you're right. I think he could do an excellent Brainiac. And Brainiac doesn't need to be a huge physical presence either, because he's a robot.
Yeah.
He can look like whatever you want him to look like. That's it for our list.
I actually have a few others that I started down the big list that I can go through really quick.
Well, let's go ahead and do that.
Black Bolt, I cast a really young Oliver Reed, and Oliver Reed is dead right now, but he had exactly the right look I wanted, because sadly Black Bolt needs to be a face, not a voice.
Yes.
And he just needs to be a presence. So if you Google Oliver Reed,
yeah, I know
for
who
a
he
younger
is.
version of him, you see what he looks like.
Mm-hmm.
That's who I want as Black Bolt. Almost a little serious all of the time.
Yeah, there's actually this picture right here that I think would, just sets off Black Bolt perfectly.
Am I not wrong, though? I did a lot of looking, because Black Bolt was really hard to cast, and I finally found him, and I was like, that's my Black Bolt, the dead guy.
See this picture here? I think it's got the exact...
Yeah, a
look.
Younger Black Bolt, a younger Oliver Reed.
Although he does remind me of, the guy who played Magneto recently.
Yeah, I kept wanting to cast him as a lot of stuff, because he was so good.
Michael Fassbender.
He's so good.
He actually strikes me as there's a lot of similarities between him and Oliver Reed.
I almost cast Michael Fassbender as Bullseye. The problem is Michael Fassbender has always been in already been in other movies. Okay, moving on quickly. Medusa. I spent a lot of time trying to cast Medusa. I cast Medusa specifically because attractiveness and her voice, because she is the voice and in essence the narrator of the Inhumans, because she's the voice of Black Bolt.
Right.
And I want a smooth, almost like attracting, like a silky but sort of like lower tone, a bit like depth to the voice and stuff. I spent a lot of time looking. I couldn't quite find somebody perfectly, and the person that I initially came up with in my mind, I was like, no, that's too obvious. Eventually I ended up landing on with Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, she's got the right voice for it and the right face.
And I cast the voice specifically, but shifting on quickly, Crimson Dynamo. I cast Hugo Weaving.
He would be excellent as Crimson Dynamo.
But he's too good in every robotic voice show. But Crimson Dynamo, I was like, Hugo Weaving. And then I moved on. Okay, one of my favorite choices, besides my Moon Knight choice, was I cast Doctor Doom.
Okay.
And Chance will super agree with me when I say it. He'll be like, oh, of course. It's Christoph Waltz.
Let's see.
He's a German actor. He was in Inglourious Bastards. He was in the last Tarantino movie with
yes,
the slavery and stuff. He's got the voice. He's got the presence, and it works really well.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of Dr. Doom as Christoph Waltz. I wouldn't be disappointed.
No, I think he would be an excellent choice for Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is exactly what you said. He's arrogant. He's a presence. He commands that you look at him. He's almost like Darkseid.
Yeah, which is why I casted German. Well, technically he's Austrian, but
right. But he needs to have that Eastern European accent.
Yeah, see, you need to look up some videos of Christoph Waltz, even just him talking, and then realize how good his voice would be as a Doctor Doom.
Mm-hmm.
I have one more cast.
Okay.
Mainly because I picked one of my favorite actors that's out there, who could probably take one of the most obscure roles and give it depth and give it interest.
Mm-hmm.
So I cast Mole Man, and I put in Paul Giamatti.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? That's interesting.
Because he's such a good actor. Everything I've ever seen him in, I was like, wow, he did a
He
really
would be
good
an
job.
excellent Mole Man.
And Mole Man's really hard to cast, but then you think Paul Giamatti, you're just like, well, Paul Giamatti could pull it off.
Yeah.
Like, he could fill the role and give it what it wants to. What you need out of it.
Yeah, he would be excellent as Mole Man. Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you, the thing with Mole Man, is you'd have to have a good Fantastic Four as well. But Paul Giamatti as Mole Man would be interesting. I like that choice.
I think I've seen Paul Giamatti in some fantastic movies, and I've seen him in some just terrible movies.
Well, yeah.
But every time he's been in either, I've always thought his role was done really well.
Well, it's sometimes those actors that it doesn't matter whether they're in a good movie or a bad movie or what, they always do their role, and they do it well.
Yeah, it's like, did you see that Paul Giamatti? Did you see that one movie? Yeah, it was terrible, but Paul Giamatti was really good.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like, wait, yeah, he wasn't he?
He does drama really well, and then he can add sort of that bit of a comedic timing to it, which he has.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I have. I think if I
there's lots more in both universes. Like I said, I went through and I was looking for characters, and it was just somewhat difficult at times to look through the DC. They didn't have it organized very well. As far as the characters from DC go. Not that Marvel is any better, but I do actually have a book about the Avengers, and it goes through and it talks about a lot of their rogues gallery and a lot of the heroes that have been members of the Avengers, and so it was much easier to do a Marvel list. But yeah, it would be so interesting now to see some of these people in these roles. Now that we've talked about it, it's like, yeah, wait a minute. No, he would be excellent for that part. Now we got to have the movie. Come on, people, make this. So we'll keep going with this. We'll keep talking about superheroes and stuff. There are tons more that we could get to, but we're just not going to get to it tonight. I think we will actually postpone discussing our battle because we've gone way over time. For this evening, but I have things like Firestar and Justice. I would like to see Galactus done well. I hated the way that they did Galactus for this Rise of the Silver Surfer. Radioactive Man is one. Quasar and Captain Marvel, not the Ms. Marvel that they're doing, but the Captain Marvel that's. Hawkman and Hawkgirl would be interesting to discuss and figure out how they would go together. I like the Doom Patrol. They're kind of odd and quirky. They've got some interesting characters in there that would be that we could go through. I did put Dick Grayson on the list. I did not like any of his portrayals recently. Chris, what was his name, that played him in Batman and Robin, and the other one, yeah.
He's not a bad actor. It's just it wasn't. It wasn't. It was like they cast an adult as and told him to act like he was the child Dick Grayson. Yeah. When he looked like the adult Dick Grayson. So he had sort of like the petty, "You're not my dad, and I'm going to go out and ride in the Batmobile and pretend I'm cool." He was like in his 20s. I was like, he would have fit
much better in the role of Nightwing.
Yeah, much more so.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll talk about that later. Our next battle is Ryu from Ninja Gaiden versus Link. I did get one response back from Comic Vine.
Thanks, Comic Vine.
Yeah.
For your passive interest. Is it that same girl that keeps...
No, it's actually a different guy this time. The one girl didn't respond.
When we lose our super fans is when it goes out the window.
Yep. So that's it for today. I wanted to leave with, let's see, where'd it go here? Let's see. No. Okay, this, yeah. Why does a chicken coop have 2 doors?
I don't
If it had 4 doors, it would be a chicken sedan.
Oh my gosh. I heard a joke the other day from the early 1900s.
Okay. Actually, this one's better, but go ahead. Not better than better than the chicken one, not the 1900s.
It's a slightly depressing joke where it says, "What does an open bottle of wine and an orphan have in common?"
They both have no parents?
They both have no pop. It's slightly depressing, isn't it?
Yep. Okay,
I heard that today, and I was like, "Oh, that's a old depressing joke right there."
Yeah. What's green, fuzzy, and if it fell out of a tree, it would kill you?
I don't know.
A pool table.
Yeah, why is it in the tree?
Anyway, that's it for the podcast tonight. Hope you had a good time. I certainly did, and I enjoyed talking about these casting um, choices, and now Hollywood needs to listen to us and make the movies. We
Yeah.
need to see these people in these roles. Do
And
it, people.
I basically cast some of these people with like 30 seconds of thought while we were doing while Jason was explaining Jar Jar Binks the Sith Lord.
And we still had some excellent, excellent choices. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's it. See you later.
Right. Yeah, look up Ian McShane's voice.
Well, I remember his voice from Kung Fu Panda. Definitely a good.
You get the best lines most of the time. I mean, yeah, it's good. But, well, we don't call them Batman anymore. We call them complicated characters. Thank you. Interesting people with difficult childhoods is the way I like to put it. Not bad people. No. It's a bad moment, a bad hair day, as you can see. Blackbeard, or as Johnny calls me, Mr. Beard.
Am I wrong? We're still streaming. I forgot to stop it. Stop it. Screw you guys at staying in.